Arc 5, Chapter 48. The Person I'll One Day Fall in Love With. For a moment, Amelia did not understand the meaning of what had been said to her. Without thinking, she swallowed. The young man in front of her, Regulus, in response, raised a hand while smiling.
I'm sorry for doing this so suddenly. I may have shocked you a little. Honestly, I apologize on that point. As I've said many times, I am a man capable of apologizing. There are unsightly people in this world who don't acknowledge their own sins and blame this and that, too small to admit that they make their own mistakes. They think they haven't done a single thing wrong, even if they were to empty out everything they've done since birth to this very moment and examine it. Just how arrogant can they be? If they could just examine what lies beneath their feet a little more and compare themselves to the vastness of this world, and come to truly understand how small of an existence they really are, then they would not end up like that. Just a single apology can reveal a person's character. It gives others a glimpse of their humanity. Don't you think so?
Then, apologizing is important?
Correct. That's right. Apologizing is important. What a relief. It's obvious and you seem to understand that point. So I'm quite relieved. In this world, there is an unexpectedly high number of people that cannot understand something so obvious. It makes me dislike them. So, it seems there's no problem on the matter of recognizing apologies among spouses. I'm relieved. It seems like I'll be able to get along with you in the future. And so, I apologized. The problem was, I was being a little impatient.
Having spoken up to that point, Regulus's eyes looked Amelia up and down. As her body was only wrapped in a blanket, she stiffened up a little at that view.
Yes, shyness is important even between spouses. On that point as well, I think you are very good. Once again, about the question from just before, I'd rather you not misunderstand. I, more than anything, was not checking whether you are a virgin from a worldly point of view. I've said this multiple times, but I am your husband and you are my wife. It will not do for a couple to lack strong ties of affection and courtesy, connected with the long chain called love. It is obvious that you should devote everything to your partner. Therefore, that you have not been touched by another man. That's the kind of assurance I need.
Assurance that I wasn't touched by others?
Of course. It's nonsensical to use the presence or an absence of a hymen as firm evidence, but as a kind of touchstone. I think it has such significant value. So, deliberately, even knowing it'd be an uncomfortable experience for you, I asked. I want you to understand that this is due to my love for you. I don't care about the virginity of someone I don't love. It's because I love you that I'm making sure.
Regulus fluently and continuously spoke of the rationale behind his thoughts. Battered by these smooth waves of words, Amelia felt something creepy about Regulus. Without knowing why, something about his appearance ceaselessly stirred a feeling of déjà vu in her heart. The contents she heard, being poured like water, were not retained in her memory. Only she was aware of such a thing. What he attached great importance to, the term virgin, that was...
And so, I want to ask once again, hey, are you a virgin or not?
By virgin, what do you mean? Sorry, I haven't heard that term before.
What?
After being thrown a question prepared with flowery words, Amelia apologetically replied. She knew that Regulus had a strong attachment to the word, but Amelia did not very well know what it meant.
Perhaps it refers to a young girl,
she thought. Closing his eyes, Regulus shut his mouth. That behavior, having sunk deep in thought, caused anxiety to creep up. But the silence was unexpectedly short. Opening his eyes wide, Regulus reached his open hand towards Amelia and...
Excellent! You're my ideal girl!
Holding Amelia's hand, Regulus wore a bright smile on his face. It was a truly happy face. Unlike the smile from just before, He had the kind of beaming expression a child would make after getting a toy they really wanted from their doting parents. Regulus grabbed and shook Amelia's hand up and down, and repeated the gesture many times.
Yes, that's how it should be. The virginity of the body this, the virginity of the body that. It's not really suitable for me as a touchstone. I'd always thought so. However, the true sense of pureness is what lies in your heart. Your body being a virgin is a given. What's really important is that your heart remains virgin as well. I feel as if I've reached truth. Amazing. You've brought something new to my previously satisfied self. Henceforth, when welcoming a new wife, just inquiring about their virginal status will be insufficient. If they're not at the level of a child, lacking the knowledge of what virginity even is, that would lower the value of the wife. An adulterous heart won't do.
Releasing Amelia's hand, Regulus stepped away with a very satisfied appearance. Amelia could not grasp the meaning of his remarks very well. In the first place, what he had meant by them being husband and wife was a mystery to her. In Amelia's understanding, a couple should be formed by one father and one mother. But Regulus's remarks suggested the existence of multiple wives. Such a notion was so far off from Amelia's perception of the nature of married couples. Perhaps he was talking about a different concept that was spelled the same way.
Whoops. We can't have you look like that for too long. I'll arrange a change of clothes straight away. Number 184, come here.
Leaving Amelia alone to her puzzlement, Regulus suddenly spoke out a number. Then, from the other side of the corridor, now appeared the woman who had left the room Amelia was in. A young woman with long blonde hair and a plain appearance. She arrived next to Regulus and demurely greeted him on the spot. Regulus nodded at her gesture.
Get number 79 a change of clothes, as soon as she's ready. As soon as she's ready, I will hold the wedding. This girl is in the same position as all of you. I want you to get along and take care of her. Yes, you are no longer prone to smiling. A good girl, a good wife.
To the woman who had nodded silently, Regulus spoke as if satisfied. After that, approaching Amelia, who still seemed lost, he ran a finger through the side of her long silver hair.
Then, see you a little while later.
Yes.
Amelia's instinct was appealing to her, to avoid going against him. Accepting Amelia's short reply, Regulus then, with the sound of footsteps, disappeared to the other side of the corridor. After he had disappeared, Amelia found that the tension assaulting her body had also gone away. Unconsciously, she had been wary of Regulus. Regulus had merely just been there, with such a relaxed attitude, yet his existence gave off a strange pressure, comparable to that of the Great Rabbit.
This way.
The woman next to Amelia suddenly called out to her. She had been gazing at the back, which had long since disappeared. Hearing the woman's voice for the first time, she was reminded of string instruments from its clear beauty. However, the voice, just like her expression, felt as if all feelings of emotion in it had frozen and hardened.
Hey, sorry. I have many questions I want to ask.
Your change of clothes.
It's also the same with the change of clothes. But tell me, do you know where this place is? I was in the plaza in Pristella with the witch cult person.
Ignoring Amelia as she tried to ask questions, the woman started to walk off immediately. Following quickly behind her, Amelia kept asking questions, attempting to somehow figure out the situation. But all her questions bounced back silently from the fully turned back. Guided by the woman in front of her, she then arrived at a strange space, next to the room she had slept in. It was also a room arranged in a simple manner, into which furniture had been forcefully shoved.
This must have been a slightly different room originally.
The clothes were chosen with care and brought over by husband Sama and so on. Number 79, you are to change into them.
By number 79, do you mean me? Just now, I think Regulus called me that too. You're...
I am number 184, his wife, like you.
Like me?
The door closed, and only then did she, the woman who had named herself number 184, engage in conversation. There was no change in that voice devoid of emotion, but it seemed that it was finally possible to make conversation.
About the word wife? I asked a few times, but does it mean the same as partner? I don't think I've become Regulus's partner.
Even if no such idea resides in you, it does in him. And if he has that idea, that means yours are irrelevant.
Isn't that strange? To become a partner, you have to marry your husband, right? I didn't get married with Regulus, and don't have any thoughts to. Marrying is between a boy and a girl who have loved each other, so that they could stay together forever. I can't make a promise like that with anyone yet.
If you mean a wedding, it will be held right now. With that, it will be done.
Amelia's words fall on number 184's deaf ears. Even though dialogue seemed to have established, it had actually not, with Amelia becoming more and more confused. In the meantime, number 184 had approached Amelia and was trying to pull aside the blanket covering her.
Wait! What are you doing?
Changing you into your bridal attire right away. Fortunately, your clothes are already prepared. When undressing you to lay you in bed, your measurements were taken. So please, rest assured.
You were the one who undressed me?
Do you think that I'm husband-sama? Rest assured, he does not make a habit of stealing peeks at women's skin, and he does not have any interest in women in the first place. After your virginity has been assured, he does not do anything.
You're talking about that virgin thing too.
I am surprised. Do you really not know? Are you not acting?
For the first time, something resembling emotion slightly flitted across number 184's expression. At that faintly surprised look, Amelia opened her eyes wide, then slightly smiled.
What? You can be surprised too? I wish you would smile while talking. That suits you much better, I think.
Husband-sama does not desire it. I will also leave you with this advice. Husband-sama likes your usual appearance. It is wiser not to laugh, cry, or change your facial expression. I think it would be better not to open your mouth if possible, even.
Are you saying not to talk? Why?
Since you will not know whether it will infringe on husband-sama's rights.
Stripping the towel from Amelia, number 184 handed over undergarments. After receiving them, she put them on her body, the size seemingly perfect fit. Watching her putting on the undergarments while moving her arms and legs, number 184 suddenly gave a long sigh.
Is something wrong?
No, I was merely thinking that you are beautiful. Your thin limbs, white skin, and long silver hair especially.
Thank you. Your compliment makes me happy. I only have Subaru and Anne telling me things like that.
Subaru? A man, is it?
Yes, my knight. Maybe he's really worried about me, so I want to find out where I am quickly.
Probably it would be causing him lots of worry. In Amelia's head, there was no concern that Subaru would have been killed. He had Beatrice with him, and Amelia could not even imagine the idea of Subaru stumbling into a predicament that would have him killed in the first place. Subaru, he would get through it somehow. And so, her current situation of being captured without being able to say anything to Subaru was really pathetic.
That man you call Subaru? Do not ever mention him to Husband-sama.
Why?
To borrow Husband-sama's words, the virginity of your heart may become suspect.
Again, that virgin thing.
Giving a term as a reason without explaining what it meant was really confusing. No explanation was given to Amelia. Her lips pursed in a pout, and number 184 took a pure white dress from the closet and held it close to Amelia's body. With a brilliant-looking front and many fancy-looking ornaments stuck on, it was a beautiful dress.
But it looks hard to move in.
Complaints too. Not speaking those would be wise. I will dress you now.
Her head tilted askew, wondering whether such a wonderful outfit would even suit her. Amelia nonetheless put the dress on, as instructed by number 184.
Isn't that just great? As I thought, white suits you.
Thank you.
Upon seeing that Amelia had changed clothes, Regulus spoke in a sunny voice. His appearance too had changed from their hallway meeting just before. Amelia's expression suggested that she had noticed, and Regulus lightly popped his collar in reply.
It's an important wedding, you know. Normally, I'm not one to dress myself like this, but I wouldn't want to embarrass you with such unfun stubbornness. It's the ideal for spouses to show consideration for each other without thinking of it as uncomfortable. I don't want to make you feel burdened by worried thoughts regarding all the consideration I have shown you. I merely want you to know that I am a man able to accept making some changes for your sake. And about the venue, it'll be ready soon. In just a little while.
The venue? You mean this?
Dressed in a white tuxedo and ceremonial attire, Regulus craned his neck, and following him, Amelia also turned her attention to the space she was in. It was a cathedral. To be exact, it was a cathedral used only for important ceremonies such as weddings. After having been changed by number 184, Amelia had left the building for the first time and quickly realized she had been resting in a room within one of the control towers. As such, Amelia had been led out of the tower and brought right to this cathedral by number 184. At the cathedral, many laboring figures were bustling about, methodically preparing the decorations for the inside of the building. Wordlessly, blankly carrying out the preparation of the venue. Wherever one looked were beautiful and fashionably attired women.
These girls are my wives. They are in the same position as you are. Altogether, they number 291. Sadly, many of them died. But still, I pour my love onto those who are still with me equally. I think it's only natural. The principle of favoring and loving only one person is too distorted to what you'd call a husband. I never do such absurd things. A fixed love, in a fixed amount, by fixed ways. I distribute it so. Here, there is no favoritism, no inequality, no injustice. Rest assured, because I love you too in that same way.
What are you saying? Isn't that...
Husband Sama, briefly, a word?
Coming to the front, number 184, who had been waiting at their side, spoke to Regulus. Hearing her words, he vaguely furrowed his brows.
You know, I'm talking to her right now. You see that, right? Interrupting me now when we're starting to nurture the sprouting of love between us? Just me and her? Don't you think you're smearing poison on it? Or that's just not on your mind? I think small courtesies between a husband and wife are really important. Didn't I tell you that? And yet, by still getting in the way, you're making my very minor wish go to waste. What do you think, number 184?
I am truly sorry. However, this is important. I know it is presumptuous, but I am only acting out of concern for husband Sama. I humbly ask you to hear my words.
His speaking grew more rapid, and Regulus's body let off clear signs of danger. However, even when exposed to that razor-sharp look, number 184's resolute attitude did not bend as she made a suggestion. Naturally, Regulus retracted the thorns he was letting out with his appearance.
Fine, speak. It's a husband's generosity to spare some kindness for the wife. I am not a man as petty as to not be able to even do that much.
I am truly grateful. Well, it is regarding the broadcast from a while ago. Will that be all right? If potentially a disturbance were made at the wedding?
The broadcast? Ah, that trembling voice that I didn't really understand? Does it matter? If they just talk, it's not a problem at all. It's just some complaint-filled coward that can't even speak of their own skills, listing off some fitting words. That's all it seems to me. If it were Capella or Sirius, I don't know what would happen if it were those bastards. But it doesn't matter. Or is it that you don't trust in my strength? Then, as a wife, are you doubting your husband's abilities?
No, I believe in it. If husband Sama is there, then we have nothing to worry about. I was merely hoping for husband Sama's words to wash away my anxiousness. That's all. Please kindly forgive a lacking wife who failed to rely on you.
With a seemingly prepared reply, number 184 dodged Regulus' inquiry. Weaving the words of a feeble girl, keeping that emotionless visage and tone, number 184 addressed him. Regulus shook his head as if impressed by her words.
Is that how it was? Sorry, it didn't even pass my mind. Even if I wasn't asked, I still should have noticed your anxious thoughts. I have to be more considerate to the thoughts of others, even if they're unspoken. Just how much was I acting as I pleased? I'll reflect on it.
It is rather I that is deeply sorry. Husband Sama's words have given me courage. I too will immediately set out to help in preparing the venue.
Ah, please do.
Giving her farewell along with a bow, number 184 turned away from Regulus. At the same time, she met Amelia's eyes and gave a furtive sort of wink. That was likely a warning to Amelia about the carelessness of the words she had been speaking before she had been cut off. She must have wanted to point out that Amelia had neglected the danger posed by Regulus. As such things had been communicated, Amelia did not hesitate to make a split-second judgment.
Watch out!
As number 184 passed by, Amelia tugged hard on her arm. Clutching her tall but light body to her chest, Amelia took a big step backwards. The space in front of her, where number 184 had stood moments before, was caressed by wind, opening a long furrow in the cathedral floor, shattering it and piercing straight through, carving a straight line of destruction. Without slowing down, the wind hit the large entrance door of the cathedral, turning it to dust, then spread its destruction outwards. At that instant of overwhelming destructive power, Amelia, who had been cuddling with number 184, could not speak. Number 184, also having noticed the destruction that had occurred behind her, froze and curled up, making herself smaller. Standing at the destruction's point of origin in a pose, as if he had swung his right arm moments before, was Regulus.
Sorry. My hand just slipped. It's a relief that nothing happened to you girls. I'll be in the waiting room until it's time, so call me when everything's ready, okay? While you're waiting too, wouldn't putting up your hair be better? That option's much more attractive, I believe. I think it's beautiful like it is right now, but I think that putting effort into being beautiful is something that must be done ceaselessly. Rather than trying to stay beautiful, trying to become even more beautiful is the minimum level of courtesy towards someone that likes you, I say. Of course I remain satisfied with my currently filled environment, but I have no mind to limit what I've been given already.
Talking as if the previous moment's destruction had been nothing at all, Regulus, while smiling at Amelia, headed for the waiting room door at the other side of the cathedral. Blankly left staring at the leftover traces of destruction, Amelia took in deep breaths, completely stunned.
Just now! What was that?
Thank you very much for saving me.
With those words, number 184 pulled away from Amelia's bosom. Her previously frozen form fixed her disheveled hair, and she left Amelia's side right away. Her steps took her to where the other women inside the cathedral were doing the preparations. It seemed those women were continuing the work, their looks suggesting they had no interest in the destruction from before. On the contrary, but some of them had gathered around the destroyed floor and door and could be seen starting to work on somehow hiding its traces out of view.
Wait! This is weird! Don't you guys think this is weird?
At that unperturbed attitude, Amelia raised her voice in confusion. However, as one, the woman paid no heed to Amelia's voice and merely continued to prepare in silence. Thinking that she was not going anywhere like this, Amelia headed for the only person who her words seemed to get through to, number 184.
Just now! Weren't you almost killed? If I hadn't pulled you back, surely your body would have been blown away. It was scary. Then, why?
Well then, what else? I have already thanked you for saving me. Beyond that, what else do you want from me? Anything else? Is that not a violation of my rights?
This isn't about rights or obligations. I'm talking about something more important. Much more important.
Amelia's hand pointed to the women still hard at work inside the cathedral.
Regulus said they're his wives. They're all that person's wife? And because they're wives, they do what he says? Because you're a wife, you quietly accept everything even if you're about to be murdered? That stuff is weird. It's weird!
Being a wedded couple is such a thing. Only that. If you experience the same situation, you too will get used to it. If you cannot get used to it, you don't.
That is too strange. Marriage is something happy. So happy. It's something happy people do, isn't it? I don't see you or anyone else looking happy at all. Am I wrong?
Yes, you are mistaken. It is possible for a marriage to happen, even if you are not happy. Spouses do not have to love each other. If they keep on being together, they become spouses. Then, as spouses, they grow used to it.
Number 184 did not deny she was in this position unwilling. Not only was she not refuting it, she was even affirming her own situation. That was distorted and wrong. Marriage should be something for those who wished to become spouses. It was not something they should just want to get used to.
That marriage stuff? I've got no intention of going along with it. I will be leaving like this.
The women who had not been paying attention to Amelia's words now raised their faces. As the wedding dress-clad Amelia announced her rejection of the marriage, they stared. Weathering the storm of those emotionless gazes, Amelia squared her shoulders.
I have people worrying about me. And there's a lot of things I have to do no matter what. So I can't just end up in a place like this. I have to rejoin everyone right away and do what I have to do.
Husband Sama will not forgive such things.
I don't want to become Regulus's wife. So I don't want your forgiveness. I'll meet everyone then. I'll definitely return to save you all. All of you. I know you're not staying with Regulus because you want to. So I'll talk to Regulus to ask him to set everyone free. Anyone that still wants to stay with him can just keep being his wife. But those that want to leave will be separated from him. It's meaningless to be forcefully married like that if you're not making each other happy.
The picture Amelia had painted inside her mind was of two people who loved each other and looked forward to being united. What floated in her mind, from her dreams, were Fortuna and Juice's appearances. Those two people had never married, and had never become a couple. Still, she thought it was good. Amelia wished she could have married those two. Their relationship was a sort of happy marriage between a loving husband and wife. And so...
I know of people who loved each other, but could not be married. And so, getting married and being unable to be happy after, I don't like that kind of relationship.
At Amelia's declaration, a stir spread throughout the indifferent women. But number 184 was the first to detach herself from that hubbub. She looked right at Amelia, and then at the destroyed entrance.
If you are choosing to leave, then that is your right. However, Husband Sama will not forgive us. We will all be slain on the spot, surely.
Even though you're his wife?
A wife that cannot even fulfill Husband Sama's wishes, in Husband Sama's view, is synonymous to one not being able to fulfill her role as a wife. If you leave, we will die. If you will still go, it will be you who kills us.
Facing Amelia, number 184 spoke while taking her own life as hostage. Her opinion, with its extreme contents, as if it reflected the opinion of them all, the women in the cathedral stood to surround Amelia and restricted her movements. Of course, there was nobody there who could fight and stop her. They were all somewhat ordinary women, born from ordinary households, having ordinary morals, having lived while yearning for ordinary happiness. Ordinary women. At some point, a screw had come loose, and they had all merely been accepted as one of Regulus's wives. She was unable to refute one bit of their tragic determination. Amelia had seen Regulus' crimes with her own eyes. For just slightly talking back, he had simply tried to blow their life away in response. It was hard to claim that Regulus would not take his anger out on them upon learning of Amelia's escape. That was something Regulus' wives understood well.
How many of Regulus's wives are here?
Husband Sama's spouses total 291 people. Of those, 238 have already passed away. So the remaining number is 53 in all.
Those wives who passed away?
Do you need an explanation?
The murky question she received in reply gave off a feeling of mocking her question. With that answer, Amelia came to realize it without even having to finish her question. The answer she had gotten was roundabout, but it described what would happen to them if Amelia were to run away.
If I left, then all of you would suffer something harsh.
Rather than a harsh punishment, it would more than likely be certain, unavoidable death. Unmistakably, these women were hostages of Amelia's free will. Thinking of the damage leaving this place would incur, she should not move rashly. She thought about Subaru and his companions outside of the cathedral in Priscilla, worrying about her now. She thought of them, and in her mind, Amelia apologized. Then,
Okay, the wedding. Let's do it.
after that, the venue's preparation proceeded at a rapid pace. Though they were not professionals, the damage had been repaired so well that it was barely noticeable anymore. Judging from their fine workmanship, one could tell just how often those women had to deal with the aftermath of Regulus' tantrums. After Amelia agreed to proceed with the wedding, number 184, along with a few of Regulus' other wives, tended to her hair in the dressing room and decorated her dress with various adornments. Except for the times where Anna-Rose had helped her with her hair, this was the first time Amelia's hairstyle had been so elaborate since Buck disappeared within the crystal. Her long silver hair was gathered up and woven into a braid, so as not to distract from the purity of her white dress. With only simple yet gorgeous embellishment, Amelia's bridal gown was completed. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, Amelia admired the woman's handiwork. Indeed, she looked very different from usual. Lately, she had no one to style her beautiful hair. She would simply put a clip on it whenever Subaru did not dress it up. The lack of accessories, which she justified on the grounds of ease of movement, also contributed to her feminine charm, though she could not help but feel it would be wasted on her anyways.
Well, let us go. Please take care not to damage husband Sama's mood.
Number 184 reminded Amelia as they headed out of the dressing room. Turning into the cathedral, Amelia saw that the attendees had already lined up, waiting for her arrival. All of them wives of Regulus, along with Regulus himself in a white tuxedo standing in front of the altar. Although she did not know the exact procedures, Amelia stepped onto the red carpet laid from the entrance and walked towards the altar where Regulus was waiting. Regulus nodded with satisfaction upon spotting Amelia, beautifully adorned as she was.
I almost didn't recognize you when you put on the dress, but the adornments take it to a whole other level. I was right to have kept number 79's seat vacant. I couldn't be happier with my judgment.
Number 79. Why is that number vacant?
Well, there used to be a woman who I initially thought would be the perfect fit. But unfortunately, I deemed her unsuitable before the wedding could take place. Though her all-important looks were very close to my ideal, I nevertheless reluctantly kept that seat vacant. But thanks to that, I met you. So it was all worthwhile after all.
Kept vacant?
What was that supposed to mean? The way it sounded reignited Amelia's already desensitized sense of awryness. But even with this vague outline, she could not quite put her finger on just what it was. Meanwhile, Regulus adjusted his suit in front of Amelia in her bridal gown.
Well now, shall we commence the wedding ceremony? I suppose it's a bit on the informal side, but I hope you don't mind. As long as the ceremony proceeds properly, the rest is just superficial details. I'm not one of those fools who prioritize the surface only to lose sight at the essence. Failing to see a matter's substance that way is simply laughable. How could someone be satisfied with only exteriors and outward appearances? Content with their ignorant, self-contained existence, they're too stupid to even notice that they're being laughed at behind their backs.
While Regulus continued his convoluted tirade, number 184 walked to the other side of the altar. Apparently she would serve as the facilitator of this ceremony. Indeed, she seemed to be fulfilling a coordinating role among Regulus' 53 wives as well, though it was unclear what that coordination amounted to considering Regulus had attempted to kill such a person on a whim. That was just another reason why this man was beyond forgiveness.
Say, Regulus? There's something I have to tell you before I marry you.
Therefore, Amelia wanted to make it absolutely clear. Number 184's expression tensed at Amelia's words, but Regulus gave a surprisingly friendly nod in reply.
Ah, that's right. There are some important things I want to tell you as well, before you become my wife. Though I suppose I could gradually teach you after we're married. It's vital that you should be mentally prepared beforehand. To discover our differences here and there after we're already married would be tragic, don't you think? To make sure something so unfortunate doesn't happen, I think it's crucial that we openly share our thoughts with each other. Once we become a couple, our hearts and souls will be bound as one, so it's important that we sort this out first.
Yeah. It's important because we'll be as one.
Right? It's good that we get on the same page. My other wives must have told you some of the rules already, but why don't we go over them? First, once you're married to me, you're forbidden to smile.
Huh?
Frowning, Amelia did not seem to understand the meaning of what Regulus had said, but Regulus raised a finger and continued.
It's quite important, you know. I like your face. I really love your face. I select my wives based on their faces. Beautiful, adorable, charmingly well-proportioned faces. I've had 291 wives in all, and all of them had beautiful faces. Your face is adorable too. And that's why you will become my wife. Do you understand? I think there are many, many people in this world much more selfish than I. Don't you often hear about couples whose love begins to die the moment they get married? They enter a relationship because they like each other, but as soon as they start living together, all sorts of problems start coming up. Incompatible tastes in food, incompatible ways of living, incompatible hobbies, incompatible schedules. There are many scummy people who will become disillusioned with the person they supposedly love for all sorts of selfish reasons. I utterly despise such hopeless people.
Smiling, Regulus happily extolled his views on love. Innocently, unreservedly, he raved about his indignation at those who scorned it.
Everyone's a little selfish, sure, but why the disillusionment? Someone you like may have different sensibilities compared to you, but why the disillusionment? How can people be so stupid? Isn't it absurd? That's why I select partners based on their faces. If my partner has a face that I like, I won't grow disillusioned no matter what kind of person is behind it. Because I love that face. As long as that face is there, my love will never die. Even if they don't put their clothes away after they take them off, even if they're a murdering maniac who indiscriminately butchers children, even if their cooking skills are catastrophically atrocious, even if they sold their own brother to pay off their debt and ran away, even if they don't separate the laundry that'll color bleed into each other, even if they're a psychopath who secretly kills animals for fun, even if they have a horrible taste in clothing, even if they are money-grubbing by nature, even if they don't like to bathe and smell like a homeless person, even if they seriously believe the apocalypse is coming and keep on talking about it, I won't dislike them.
One after another, Regulus pointed to the 53 women present, shouting. It was not clear which one of those descriptions matched which one of the women, nor could Amelia understand how he could claim to love only their faces and separate that from the person underneath.
I'd never say it in a past tense like, I used to love. I love your face. Even if you're a witch seeking to slaughter every person in this world in utmost excruciating agony, I won't grow disillusioned, as long as I have your face.
What does that have to do with not smiling?
It's very simple. There are times when a girl who's normally cute and beautiful can suddenly turn repulsive the moment they smile, you know? As if I could allow such a thing. So, it's not only smiling, but crying is a condition as well. Either way, I won't allow your cute, adorable face to be distorted in any way. So no smiling, no crying, no getting angry. Only having a cute face is permitted.
Holding Emilia's chin in his fingertips, Regulus quietly demanded. As for what would happen if she refused, those earlier events had already answered that question. But what made no sense was how he could commit such senseless acts of violence against his wives, while claiming to love their faces.
You said you loved their faces, and would never grow disillusioned. Then why did you attack this person earlier?
Huh?
Seeing Amelia pointing to number 184, Regulus tilted his head. Without lowering her arm, Amelia broke free from Regulus's fingers.
If I hadn't pulled her away, she would have died for sure. This is also someone whose face you love, and therefore took as your wife, correct? If that's true, then how could you do such a thing?
Ah, that's simple too. It's because, temperament as I am, she still managed to offend me. I'm not asking for much, am I? But some people are just way too inconsiderate. I thought that surely none of my wives would be like that, but what else can I do when it happens right in my face? Since there's no helping it, I had no choice but to take responsibility for that.
And so, you became disillusioned? You're contradicting what you said just now.
I am not disillusioned. I still like her face. I still love her. Even if she's dead, that still doesn't change my enduring love for her. Don't you hear it often? When someone you love dies, that person lives on inside your heart because your love for that person endures and will not fade. That's exactly how it is with me.
Regulus's twisted logic was impeccable. Impeccable, without the slightest confusion. His logic was complete within his mind. Without the slightest room for others' rebuttal, it was perfect, flawless. Regulus furrowed his brows upon seeing that Amelia had fallen utterly silent. He looked into her eyes, a quizzical color present within his own.
I've actually been wondering for a while now. Do you maybe have something to complain about? If so, then that's really disappointing. I've already made concession after concession out of consideration for you, yet can't you appreciate my considerations at all? A person shouldn't be all talk, you know. If you have the slightest consideration for other people's feelings, you just put yourself in other people's shoes. I don't think you have the mind to think about that, do you? If a person can't even make that modest effort, then I can't see how such a person can have any value whatsoever. It's disrespectful of others. More specifically, it's disrespectful to me. That's unforgivable.
I think marriage should be something really beautiful.
Huh?
It's a ceremony that joins two people who love each other and want to be with each other. It's a really big deal to like someone. And so, to find someone out of all the people in this world and have that person also like you back, it's an amazing thing, I think.
Amelia in her bridal gown held a hand to her chest. While listening, Regulus's face contorted with disbelief. The expressions of the wives in attendance, including number 184 at the altar, began to cloud over.
They must be worried for me.
Amelia figured. It was proof that they were compassionate, kind-hearted people after all.
Why do you call your wives by their numbers?
Why get caught up on names? Just like getting bogged down by what's superficial, it's a complete misunderstanding of love. I don't need those superfluous embellishments to be confident that my love is real. And so, there is no need to stick to such flimsy trivialities. For love to be equal, one has to let go of those unnecessary aspects. Don't you think?
I see. But I don't dislike being called Emilia-tan by Subaru at all.
Subaru?
Hearing a name he could not let slide, a color of displeasure rose on Regulus's face. But Amelia ignored the shift in Regulus' expression as she continued.
When Subaru calls me Emilia-tan, his voice is packed with feeling. And occasionally, when he calls me just Amelia, I can immediately tell that it's something special. I don't think it's unnecessary at all. Names should carry that kind of feeling.
Hey, it's like you're just talking by yourself at this point. But who's Subaru? It's a person's name, isn't it? Actually, it's a man's name, isn't it? A girl who's about to marry someone, mentioning a different man's name in front of the man she's about to marry? That goes against all common sense no matter how you look at it, doesn't it? Even if it's just some random stranger's name, it still hurts, you know. It hurts, you know?
He's not a random stranger. Subaru is my only knight. A person who calls me by my name and tells me that he loves me.
Huh?
Hearing Amelia's answer, a flood of blood-curdling aura gushed from Regulus's body. Sensing this, number 184 and the other wives immediately tried to run for it and leave the place, but...
Don't move! If anyone dares move, I'll cut their heads off! I'll let you explain yourself. Try to choose your words carefully so I don't misunderstand. I wouldn't want this wedding to turn into someone's funeral, you know?
His shoulders heaving and shuddering, Regulus suppressed his emotions as he spoke. Held in place by Regulus's threat, none of the attendants moved. But, without flinching, Amelia met his swelling aura head-on.
Marriage should be between a man and a woman who love each other. But I'm not qualified for that at all. Because I still don't know how to love a man as a woman. Even though Subaru tells me that he loves me, I still can't return his feelings or even give him a straightforward answer. And that's really unfair of me. I know how much it hurts Subaru, but...
Regulus fell silent, but Amelia's heart was not focused on him. Anyone could tell, Amelia's eyes did not reflect him at all.
Even though I don't know how to love someone, I'm sure I'll come to love someone someday. I'm sure that one day I will love someone as a woman. And I've already decided on the person I'll fall in love with. And when that time comes, that's why...
Taking a breath and looking up at Regulus, Amelia spoke.
I can never be yours.
Is that so? Well, I don't want a selfish, cheating whore like you as my wife either! All the better!
Regulus's face flashed crimson in anger at Amelia's declaration. Amelia's whole body surged with mana in preparation to block Regulus's attack, his fingers reaching for her in anger. To counter his unknown destructive mechanism, her first action should be... Just when their attacks were set to begin, a violent noise crashed throughout the chapel. Accompanying the sound was tremendous momentum, as something shot straight into Regulus's body like a bullet. Crashing into Regulus in his white tuxedo and shattering upon impact was a wooden door, one of the two at the cathedral's entrance that had just been repaired. It had flown all the way from the entrance to hit Regulus, and...
Damn it! We kicked at the same time, but the result's not the same at all! What the fuck's with your leg strength, man?
Apologies for not adjusting it properly, but it managed to hit the target I was aiming to hit. So it turned out alright, didn't it?
Oh, the flashiness of the entry is nowhere near the same, okay? My kick only managed to open the door, but your kick landed a direct hit on the enemy.
Two grumbling silhouettes appeared at the chapel's entrance. One was a black-haired boy, and the other a red-haired youth. Amelia's eyes widened in astonishment. In front of her, Regulus picked away the wooden shards as if they were insects. Standing there, unhurt, he was glaring at the two intruders with contempt in his eyes.
You certainly have the gall. Crashing a sacred wedding ceremony? I don't remember inviting any guests with a male name, but mind telling me who you are and what wedding presents you bring? Huh?
Met with Regulus below, the two at the entrance looked at each other. Then, giving each other a nod.
Spirit Knight without his spirit partner, Natsuki Subaru.
From the lineage of Sword Saints, Reinhard von Astrea.
Announcing his name, Reinhard took a step forward. Next to him, Subaru gave Emilia a wink before pointing at Regulus and saying,
I object to this marriage, and I'll be taking the bride with me